Welcome to Left, Right, Center, where we are covering Colorado politics first on CBS News Colorado. I'm political specialist Sean Boyd with our analysts, Democrat Mike Dino, Republican Dick Wadhams. Some bad news this week for those who get their health insurance on the individual and small group markets. We learned that premiums will shoot up by more than Governor Polis estimated. Coloradans will face a 10.4% hike in the individual market in 2023 and a 7.4% increase in the small group market. And at least 3 carriers announced they are leaving the Colorado market. The Colorado Association of Health Plans, the leading trade association for health insurers, blames a new law that requires insurers offer a state-regulated plan with guaranteed benefits called the Colorado Option. Amanda Massey, executive director of the association, says the decisions made by the Polis administration regarding the Colorado Option were fundamentally contradictory to the stated goal of saving people money on health care. The outcome of those decisions are fewer carriers offering individual and small group products to consumers across the state, less competition, and higher premiums. The administration chose politics over math. But Commissioner of Insurance Michael Conway says 80% of people who shop for insurance on the state exchange receive subsidies, and when rates go up, the subsidies do too, meaning many people could end up paying less. Mike, the timing of these rate increases, which had to be released by November 1st, couldn't be worse for Governor Polis.
Well, it's true. You know, the aim of the state's health care exchange is to see more people on it. Most people in Colorado still get their health care from their employers.
Right.
And in fact, they're probably seeing some increases. I know I just did my annual update to my plan, and I didn't have an increase, so I was happy about that. But the bottom line is that we're probably not seeing as many voters affected. I do think the commissioner put it appropriately. A lot of people who get on the health care exchange do get subsidies, and so that will be able to help with some of these increases. But healthcare is a political problem that will always continue to plague us. There's not any easy solutions, and there's a lot of special interests that lobby for it on a regular basis, both at the state and at the national level.
Absolutely, very complicated. Still, Dick, you know, you've got costs going up across the board. This is just another thing.
Yes.
How does this play into this election?
Well, this came into being with such fanfare by our governor. And this whole claim that I'm saving people money all the time, it's not true. And this is another example of it. And then I think the most damning part of the story, Sean, is the fact that these companies are leaving Colorado. That is not good for competition. And I don't know, it just proves that all these wonderful ideas that Governor Polis has with his liberal friends in the legislature, they don't pan out. And this is another example of it.
Well, you can't turn on the TV right now without seeing an ad in Colorado's 8th congressional district race between Democrat Yadira Caraveo and Republican Barb Kirkmeyer. Sandra Fish with the Colorado Sun reports more than $16 million has been spent on TV ads alone in the race, and most of the ads are focused on either economic issues or abortion. Mike, these are the 2 big issues this election, and you know, this race is really a test of which issue wins out. How do you see this playing out here?
Well, first off, I mean, this has really been a huge television ad campaign. I do think, you know, the candidates have had one 30-minute debate amongst themselves. That's been it. And they've each had very distinct campaign styles. And so, you know, and it's a new district that runs from Westminster, Thornton, Commerce City, all the way up to Greeley. And so a lot of voters don't even know they're in that district. So it will, you know, the outcome is being watched very closely. It's one of the top 10 races in the country on the congressional list for the Republicans, particularly to swing it, the House to the Republican side. And so what I think is, you know, it's really questionable of how much they've connected with voters if it's just been through the TV. On the issues, we see those as the traditional issues. The Democrats are closing with abortion rights, and the Republicans are closing with crime and the economy. And I think the last thing that I think is important to say about it is Yadira Caraveo has raised a lot of money, what we call hard money in the campaign world, through her campaign, whereas Barb Kirkmeyer has been mostly supported by independent or third-party expenditures and not as much by money she's raised herself. So those have been some differences in the campaigns, and I think it's still a toss-up.
you know, Kirkmeyer, too, she had competitive primary, too, and had to spend a lot of her money in that primary, whereas Yadira Caraveo did not.
Right.
You know, I kind of see this district really as a bellwether potentially for 2024.
Well, I think it's a bellwether for this election, too, Sean, because if Barbara Kirkmeyer wins the 8th Congressional District, that bodes well for Republicans across the state, because it is so competitive. It's such a reflection of Colorado in many ways. The thing that's kind of that's been percolating up, Sean, nationally, is that there are so many more incumbent Democratic members of Congress who are suddenly finding themselves vulnerable, including the chairman of the National Democratic Committee to elect Democratic members of Congress. And there are some members in New York and Michigan, of all places, that are now vulnerable. What I've heard is that they might have to start moving money from challenger races or open seats like the 8th to defend these incumbents back east.
So they might be pulling out of this.
I think that could be a factor. This could be a race they would do that. And also, in terms of the issues, Barbara Kirkmeyer is talking about the issues. I'll tell you what, I love my Democratic friends, but they always think that abortion is the silver bullet, and that if we just play the abortion card hard enough, we're going to win. I don't think it's going to work again. I don't.
We'll see. Coming up, some of the races that you might not be paying attention to, but will impact your life the most. Welcome back to Left, Right, Center. Attorney General races are often electoral afterthoughts. Not this year. With increasing crime and the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, AG races are front and center. And in a sign of how close Colorado's race is, Democratic incumbent Phil Weiser has gone negative, along with a PAC supporting Republican challenger John Kellner.
Kellner's hiding his opposition to background checks on gun purchases. It got him an A rating from the NRA. He opposed the law keeping guns away from those dangerously unstable.
After someone commits a third or fourth car theft in, say, 3 months, they should be kept in with a really high bond, because you got a sense they're going to get out, they're going to commit more crimes.
This is the idiot that's in charge of crime?
Okay, there are problems with both of those ads. First of all, the AG is not in charge of crime, and Kellner, a district attorney, is not against background checks or the red flag law. That aside, Dick, do you see this as a referendum really on people who think that, you know, who's better at fighting crime in this race?
Well, I think people do think that. Maybe it's not entirely accurate, but remember, Weiser's the guy who said, I am the chief law enforcement officer for Colorado. He's the one who kind of set that up, and I think he gets what he deserves. It's not been a good week for Weiser. I mean, he had that devastating story here on CBS 4 about whining and dining in Maui with all his corporate lobbyist friends, and now a new story has come out in the last 24 hours that he, after getting a bunch of money from an entity that was being investigated, that no charges were filed. And I think some things are catching up with the Attorney General.
So, you know, Mike, what we do know is the AG does defend state laws, including abortion. Both these candidates say they will defend Colorado's abortion law. How do you see that issue playing into this race?
Well, again, we're kind of going to default. I mean, Dick and I know in running campaigns, you kind of figure out what are we going to close with for our candidates in the last days. And as we've said earlier, it's abortion for the Democrats, crime, the economy for the Republicans. And it's unclear who's going to win out. I mean, on the abortion issue, the Democrats have a better case to be made. Roe versus Wade is a reality that's in everybody's face and what happened, and it's being outlawed all over the country. Colorado is seeing the ramifications of that with people making their way here to seek health care related to that. And so it is an issue that will probably have more traction in Colorado than some other states, in my estimation. As it relates to the AG's race, it is what you want to define it. If you want to be a crime fighter, what do the voters know? I mean, they don't look into it enough to really say, all right, you know, what are these guys supposed to do? So if crime fighting is how you define it, and then you're gonna campaign on that playing surface.
He says he'll use the state grand jury, statewide grand jury, to go after organized crime rings more. So certainly you
You're
can.
talking about Kellner.
Kellner,
Yeah,
right? That you can make it more about crime if you want to, and certainly use the bully pulpit.
And the bully pulpit, and go down to the legislature and get in those legislators' faces who decide that we shouldn't have strong laws against fentanyl and other issues. And I think Kellner would do that. Weisler certainly hasn't. He hasn't done anything down there.
He's done some stuff down there. Maybe
the wrong stuff.
He's done a lot of good stuff.
We have some different opinions here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are also seeing a lot of ads this year in state legislative races, which frankly are the races that most impact our lives. The 116th Congress, which ended in January of 2021, passed 344 bills in 2 years. By comparison, the state legislature passed 509 bills in 5 months this year. While Democrats have control of both chambers for the last 4 years, allowing them to accomplish much of their agenda, that could change November 8th. Republicans are hoping to take control of the Senate. Here are some of the most competitive races we're watching. Senate District 20 in Jefferson County, Senate District 27 in Arapahoe County, Senate District 8 on the Western Slope, Senate District 6 in Pueblo, Senate District 24 in Northwest Adams County, Senate District 11 in Colorado Springs, and Senate District 15 in Loveland. Mike, Democrats in those districts, they're focused on achievements down at the state legislature, like full-day kindergarten, for example, money for affordable housing, mental health care, the cap on insulin prices. Republicans, of course, it's all about crime and the economy. Which message wins out in these races, do you think?
Well, I think there's some nuances. I mean, in the race in the Northwest metro area and part of Jefferson County, Arvada, where Representative Cutter's running for that Senate race, I mean, she's been a big leader as it relates to environmental issues. She was a big champion as it related to banning plastic bags.
Right.
And also extended producer responsibility. That little thing you see on the Coke bottle that says if you return this, you get 10 cents. and so I do think when you're running in specific districts, yeah, you play the overlying issues, reproductive rights, crime, the economy, but you can also gain some traction on things like the environment, which, we have a large constituency in Colorado that does care about that. The interesting race in Senate District 8 up in the mountains, both candidates have raised about the same amount of money with their candidate campaigns, but the Republican has far outdistanced the Democrat in raising money from third-party donors. And I find that kind of fascinating to see, whose money's going to win out there. So each race has their own little nuances, and I think it'll come down to how they really relate to their district versus the overarching issues that are covering the race generally.
It's interesting, too, in both of those districts, you mentioned wildfire, also a big issue in both of them.
You bet.
How do you see these playing, Dick?
Well, first of all, there really are 7 Senate districts that could go one way or the other. I mean, there really are a bunch of battlefields out there for both parties. I still think that people wake up every morning to a horrible crime. I mean, this morning we woke up to those deputies having to have a gunfight last night in the Lone Tree Mall, in the parking garage. I mean, this is crazy. And I think these issues are right in people's faces. And I just can't imagine that voters aren't going to think about that when they vote on these legislative races. But we'll see. Mike is right. There are always local issues that do bubble up in these things. But I think there are some overarching themes in Colorado, and crime is a big one, and the economy.
And talk about the impact of these races depending on who takes control of the Senate.
Oh, if Republicans win the Senate, the Democratic agenda stops in its tracks.
Right.
Because we won't see 500 bills.
Well, you might see them. They're just not going to go anywhere. Yeah, that's right. And frankly, I think that would be a good thing. I think our state has just gone way too far to the left. We need some balance in the state and some thoughtful approach to issues, not this headlong rush to the latest fad on the left. And I think that's where we've been.
Do you see anything being, there's really nothing that would be overturned, though, that is already passed, because you'd have a split legislature down there.
Then a Democratic governor.
Right,
so
exactly.
I don't think,
although he doesn't always agree with his party.
No, he doesn't. I think the Dems will hold on to the Senate, even with Senator Priola switching parties. But But I hear from both sides of the aisle, they like to see more balance. I actually think because of the ambitions of the governor, possibly beyond being the governor, and there's no indication that he's going to do anything, but he'll have to pay attention to that if he does and what the legislature is going to come out. And Sean, as you point out, he'll have a different point of view than some of the Democrats.
I think this, after the election, I think that there might be important gubernatorial business in like New Hampshire and South Carolina and other states that the governor will be
Iowa,
interested in.
if they leave him on the calendar.
If they leave him on the calendar.
Well, you listen to him. He just wants to be governor of Colorado.
Well,
right?
he will be.
Yeah, and he will be. Yeah, exactly.
All right, when we come back, a new endorsement for Republican Joe O'Dea in the race for U.S. Senate. Will it hurt or help him? Welcome back to Left, Right, Center. We haven't even gotten past the 2022 election, and already the race is on for 2024. And the road to the White House is going right through Colorado. Republican U.S. Senate candidate Joe O'Dea is caught in the middle of an intra-party battle between former President Donald Trump and rival Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a likely 2024 presidential contender. It all started last week when O'Dea said on national TV that he would actively campaign against Trump if he ran in 2024. Trump blasted O'Dea, then DeSantis endorsed O'Dea, and then Trump lashed out at DeSantis. Dick, we talked last week about whether Trump's rebuke help or hurts O'Dea, and now you've got DeSantis, along with other party heavyweights that are weighing in on this, coming to O'Dea's defense. You know, polls show, though, that he trails Bennett still by a large spread here.
Yeah, and I don't believe it. I still think this is within striking distance for O'Dea. And like I said last week, I don't think any Republican who said, oh, I'm not going to support O'Dea now because of the Trump thing, they had made that decision earlier. But I will say, DeSantis helps O'Dea with any Republicans who had doubt. He is immensely popular among Republicans right now. Whenever I go to a Republican meeting, Sean, I go to a lot of them, they bring up DeSantis. I mean,
as much as Trump.
Yes, I'm telling you, there is a lot of support for DeSantis. I don't know whether he will actually, compete for the nomination against Trump, but DeSantis is the hottest thing going in the Republican Party right now. He really is.
So he helps.
He helps.
He definitely helps.
In fact,
here in Colorado.
Yes, he does. Because if there were some Republicans who had doubts, they will be reaffirmed in terms of supporting O'Dea. Yes.
Despite Trump saying.
Yes, yeah.
Don't
and anybody,
for stupid people with big mouths.
And anybody, like I said last week, anybody who says, any Republican who says, I'm not going to vote for O'Dea, they had made that decision long before. They really had. So anyway.
Mike, you know, while Republicans talk about their support for O'Dea, the money still just isn't there. I mean, McConnell's group dropped $1.2 million into the race recently, but you're not seeing the others putting money in. Rick
well,
Scott's
you don't. I mean, there's been a lot of money spent on both sides, and I do think that by now, you know, O'Dea's probably gotten his presence. So what's interesting about the Trump-DeSantis proxy war in Colorado is, you know, Elon Musk now is in charge of Twitter.
Yikes.
I mean, he's firing all the chief executives. I mean, you let Trump on in the last week, and if he starts tweeting out
Dick
there,
wants that.
yeah, if he starts tweeting stuff about how he doesn't like O'Dea, it may cancel out everything DeSantis says. I don't discount what Dick says about people who've already made up their mind, you know, they're going to vote for O'Dea or not. But the Trump, you know, that's the biggest problem for pollsters too. You know, in 2016 they were way off. They didn't predict the Trump presidency. In 2018, they didn't predict the blue wave.
Right.
In 2020, they were way off on how well Democrats, particularly Biden, was going to do in certain states. And so they're trying to get it right this year, and Trump's still messing with it. And so I think even up to the end here, this is going to be a wild card.
And remember, Mike, that in 2020, the Republicans actually won seats in the House of Representatives, and nobody anticipated that. Democrats thought they would expand their majority.
Yeah, because the polls said that, right?
Polls said that, yeah, exactly. They were all over the board, yeah. That's why I'm not sure these polls have anything to do with reality right now, Sean. And I listen, I've done enough polling. Polling is a very scientific barometer, but on the other hand, they've been wrong so much.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You just wonder, people are
Yes.
just messing with the pollsters, right?
Well, and the other thing is bringing people in to campaign for you. I remember when I ran Wellington Webb's race, somebody called me up and says, "Hey, we want to bring in La Mafia to do a concert for Wellington." I'm going, who the heck's La Mafia? I mean, what are they going to help us with votes? And you know, it could be tricky.
Wow.
All right. Well, thanks for watching Left, Right, Center. We will see you next week at the same time.